Picture a bright yellow backhoe loader idling on a building site at first light. It sounds like a diesel. It pulls like a diesel. It digs a full shift like a diesel. But put your hand near the exhaust and all that comes out is water. No soot, no black smoke, no carbon at all. Just warm water vapor drifting up into the cold morning air. That machine was not built in Germany, it was not built in Japan, and it was not built by the biggest name in heavy equipment. It was built by a family firm from a small market town in the English Midlands. And right now, that family firm is winning a race the American giant barely bothered to enter. For years, the story everyone told about the future of construction machinery was simple. The diesel engine was finished, and the battery would take its place. Every giant in the industry lined up behind that one idea. Caterpillar, the yellow colossus that has bossed this business for the best part of a century, poured its money into electrification, into cleaner diesel, into fuel squeezed from vegetable oil, and into experimental hydrogen setups wired up to electric motors. The plan sounded unbeatable. The biggest company, the deepest pockets, the safest bet. And while the whole world watched the giants, a digger maker most people outside Europe cannot even name was busy building the very thing the giants had written off. That digger maker is JCB. And to understand why this story stings so badly for the establishment, you have to understand where JCB came from. It is not a faceless corporation run by a boardroom of strangers. It was started on the 23rd of October, 1945, by one man, Joseph Cyril Bamford, in a tiny rented lock-up garage in the town of Uduxeter. On the very same day, his son Anthony was born. Bamford could barely afford the rent, so his first ever product was a humble farm tipping trailer, welded together out of scrap metal left over from the war. He sold it. Then he built another. In 1953, he invented the machine that made the company famous, the backhoe loader, a digger on one end and a loader on the other, and it changed how every building site on Earth moved dirt. In 1977, JCB launched the Load-All telescopic handler and went on to become the biggest maker of those machines in the world. Here is the part that matters most. 80 years later, JCB is still owned by the very same family. The chairman today is Anthony Bamford, Lord Bamford, the boy born the day the company was founded. There are no nervous quarterly phone calls with Wall Street. There are no outside shareholders demanding the cautious choice. So when the Bamford family decides to stake a fortune on a technology that everyone else has dismissed as a dead end, there is no committee on Earth that can stop them. That freedom is the one weapon Caterpillar does not have, and it is about to matter enormously. Because when the whole industry swung hard toward batteries, JCB did the one thing a stubborn family firm is allowed to do. It asked an awkward question, and then it did the maths honestly. Its engineers worked out exactly what it would take to run a big machine on batteries alone. The answer was brutal. To keep a 20-ton excavator digging through a full 16-hour working day, they calculated you would need somewhere around 10 tons of batteries. 10 tons. A slab of battery cells that could cost around $500,000 on its own, and then sit there needing up to 12 hours to recharge. So your machine works one shift, then lies dead all night drinking electricity. On a real site, that is not a tool. That is a very expensive paperweight the size of a garden shed. If you have ever spent a single day in the cab of one of these machines, I genuinely want to hear from you in the comments right now. Would you trust hydrogen on your site, or do you think the giants were right to play it safe and slow? Hold on to your answer, because what JCB did next is the whole reason we are even having this conversation, and it turns everything you have been told on its head. Bamford flatly refused to accept that the future had to be heavier and slower than the present. His engineers asked a completely different question. Instead of throwing the engine away, why not keep the engine and change the fuel? Why can we not take hydrogen, the most common element in the entire universe, and simply burn it inside an ordinary combustion engine? Not a fuel cell, not a battery. Honest combustion. Pistons, spark plugs, and a crankshaft. The very things JCB has understood in its bones for 80 years. That question is the fork in the road this whole story turns on. There are only 3 real ways to pull the carbon out of a heavy machine, and JCB looked hard at all 3. The first is the battery, and we just buried that one under 10 tons of dead weight. The second is the hydrogen fuel cell, a clever and expensive box that turns hydrogen into electricity through a chemical reaction and feeds an electric motor. It works, but it is delicate, it is costly, and it quietly hates the dust, the pounding vibration, and the sheer daily abuse of a quarry or a muddy building site. The third way is the one almost nobody with serious money took seriously. You just burn the hydrogen. And when hydrogen burns, it does not make carbon dioxide, it makes water. Here is the beautiful part. JCB did not design some exotic new machine from a blank sheet of paper. It took its existing diesel engine, the Diesel Max, the same trusted block that has powered its diggers for years, and it kept the bottom half almost completely untouched. Same cooling pack, same service points, same turbocharger a mechanic already knows. Then it threw away the top end and rebuilt it to inject hydrogen gas and light it with spark plugs. The real trick that made it all work was learning to burn an incredibly lean mixture, roughly 1 part hydrogen to 99 parts air, which keeps the burn cool and stops the engine choking out the one nasty pollutant hydrogen can still make. The result is an engine that gives the operator the same power, the same torque, and the same all-day stamina as diesel, refuels in minutes instead of hours, and breathes out nothing but water. And this was never some science fair trick shown off once and quietly shelved. JCB put £100 million behind it. It gathered a team of around 150 engineers at its power systems plant in Derbyshire and told them to make it real. They built prototype after prototype, more than 130 complete running engines, and bolted them into the machines JCB actually sells: the backhoe loaders, the load-all telehandlers, the generator sets humming away on site. They dropped one into a truck to prove it could haul a lorry down a public road. They even built their own mobile hydrogen refueler so a machine could be topped up out in a muddy field, miles from any pipeline. This was never a concept. This was a finished product hunting for a market. Then came the moment that should have set off every alarm bell in every American boardroom. JCB took its working hydrogen engine to Las Vegas, to the biggest construction equipment show on the planet, and ran it in front of the entire industry, on Caterpillar's home turf. A small British family firm, standing in the middle of the American desert, showing the whole world a zero-carbon combustion engine that actually worked. And the giants standing at the booths nearby did not have an answer to put next to it. Subscribe right now if you want to watch how this ends, because the next move belongs to the giants, and every single month that passes, they have less room to make it. This next part is exactly what the establishment was hoping you would never quite notice. Because it was never just a show pony, the regulators moved. At the start of last year, 11 separate licensing authorities across Europe signed off JCB's hydrogen engine for sale. The Netherlands went first, then Great Britain, then Germany, France, Spain, Belgium, Poland, Finland, and more all fell into line. And then JCB secured full European type approval, clearing the engine for use across all 27 nations of the European Union. That is the dull, bureaucratic milestone that actually changes everything, because it means this is no longer a prototype you gawp at from behind a rope. It is a certified engine a customer can legally buy today and put straight to work. The family firm from Staffordshire did not just build the thing, it got permission to sell it, right across a continent, before the giants had a real rival sitting on the shelf. Now, to be fair, Caterpillar is nobody's fool. The giant has decades of deep engineering behind it, and it has been busy weaving hydrogen into hybrid systems, pushing cleaner diesel and vegetable oil fuels, and testing battery electric mining trucks to buy itself time. But look very closely at where the American establishment actually placed its chips. It hedged, it bet on the battery, it bet on the safe, slow, incremental path, and treated hydrogen combustion as a side experiment rather than the main event. It bet that the internal combustion engine was a dead man walking, and that anyone still loyal to pistons was a fool. And a small British company looked at that same future, kept the pistons, changed the fuel, and beat them to a working, road-legal, zero-carbon engine you can run hard all day and refuel in minutes. That is the real wound here, and it is worth naming clearly. It is not that America lacks the talent. America has more raw engineering talent than anyone alive. The wound is complacency. It is the quiet assumption that the biggest player automatically owns the future, that sheer size is the same thing as speed. Caterpillar did not fall behind in this lane because it could not build a hydrogen engine. It fell behind because it was so utterly certain the race was somewhere else, that it let a family firm from a Staffordshire market town lap it on the inside while it was still deciding which way to look. So picture the true shape of this thing. On one side, a global giant with tens of thousands of staff and a budget bigger than some entire nations, moving carefully, hedging every bet, waiting for the market to tell it what to do next. On the other side, the family of a man who once welded a trailer out of wartime scrap in a rented garage, willing to stake £100 million and 80 years of hard-won reputation on a single stubborn idea, precisely because no outside shareholder could ever tell them to stop. And it is the family firm, not the giant, that holds the finished engine, the approvals, and the head start. The fuel of the future was supposed to belong to whoever was biggest. Instead, for now, it belongs to a bright yellow digger from Staffordshire that breathes out nothing but water, built by a family who simply refused to be told the engine was dead.